In this video, I'll be counting down the top 10 Shadow Pokémon in Pokémon GO. Now in case you didn't know, Shadow Pokémon are variations of regular Pokémon with a significant boost to their damage, but at the expense of defense stats. In other words, Shadow Pokémon will be much stronger, but will get knocked out much faster. They can be obtained exclusively from Team Go Rocket battles, Team Go Rocket leader battles, and from Giovanni himself, and these are some of the most powerful Pokemon variations in the game. Some low IV Shadow Pokemon even outperform perfect IV non-Shadow Pokemon. For this list, I took into account how powerful these Shadow Pokemon are for raiding and PvP. Most of these Pokemon are specifically great for raids, and a small few are here for their relevance in PvP alone. Also keep in mind, every one of these Pokemon on this list are under the assumption that you've used a TM to remove frustration during one of these special Team Go Rocket events. Of course, the list of Shadow Pokemon is continuously getting bigger and bigger, so this list could be different in the near future. Right, so let's kick things off with the number 10 Pokemon on this list, and it is going to be Shadow Gyarados. This Pokemon is probably going to be one of your top Water type or Dark type raid attackers. Because of its diverse move pool, Shadow Gyarados is one of the most versatile Shadow Pokemon you can have. It's probably going to be the best as a raid attacker, but it can also be a spicy Go Battle League pick as well. But granted that it has a double weakness to electric and it has the reduced defense stat as a shadow, you will want to be careful using it in PvP. Next, let's move on to the 9th Shadow Pokemon on this list, and it is going to be none other than Shadow Lapras. Now, contrary to what I said about Shadow Gyarados, Shadow Lapras will actually be more useful in the Go Battle League while only being a decent raid attacker. This Pokemon can be an absolute menace in any of the PvP leagues, but it is most devastating in the Great League and the Ultra League. Since it has innate tankiness, the defense reduction is not as felt as with other shadows. Likewise, it can pack quite a hefty punch as an Ice type or Water type attacker. This leads me to the number 8 Shadow Pokemon, and it is going to be Shadow Moltres. Being the first legendary Shadow Pokemon on this list, Moltres is by far one of the top raid damage dealers. If you're in need of a powerful Fire type or Flying type, then typically you will find Shadow Moltres near the top of the list. Not only does it have some of the highest damage per second in the game, it is also a very cool and menacing looking shadow. Unfortunately, it was only available for a limited time with Giovanni, and there is no telling when Niantic will bring this one back. But if they ever do, you absolutely must try and get this Shadow Pokemon, as it will trivialize much of your raids and gym battles. Next, let's move on to some PvP-centric Shadow Pokemon, and coming in at number 7 is none other than Shadow Snorlax. Now, the reason why I have Shadow Snorlax on this list is simply because of its potential in the Ultra and Master League. Now, it may not be the main answer you may be looking for, but as a Shadow Pokemon, it is absolutely a powerful Pokemon you should not ever ignore. In comparison to a regular Snorlax, which is also common in the Go Battle League, the Shadow version can very easily throw your opponents off. With its tankiness and some very powerful fast moves, Shadow Snorlax can certainly get you ahead with your Go Battle League rankings. But of course, the Go Battle League is not the only place Shadow Pokemon excel. If anything, Shadow Pokemon will more likely be used in raids more often than not, and one of the absolute best raid damage Shadow Pokemon is the number 6 Pokemon on this list, and that is Shadow Mammoswine. Considering that a huge number of legendary raid bosses have the dragon typing, Shadow Mammoswine will prove its usefulness pretty much immediately. Since it is by far one of the highest Ice type damage per second Pokemon in the game, it will be your absolute best counter to some of the toughest raids. You could also surprise your opponents in the Master League with a Shadow Mammoswine. If you're struggling against Dragonites and other Dragon types, you could swap in a Shadow Mammoswine to completely melt down the competition. You will want to watch out for Fighting types, however, as they can have a strong advantage against this Pokemon. Speaking of which, this leads me to the 5th Pokemon on this list, and it is going to be Shadow Tyranitar. Now this Shadow Pokemon is going to be extra weak against fighting types, thus I wouldn't recommend using it in the Go Battle League. However, this Pokemon is going to be amazing in raid battles. Much like how Shadow Mammoswine will be useful against Dragon-type raid bosses, Shadow Tyranitar will be useful against Psychic and Flying-type legendary raids, to which there are plenty. If you have a Shadow Tyranitar with Smackdown and Stone Edge, for example, you will easily defeat legendary raids like Lugia, Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. If you have one with Bite and Crunch, then you will have a top tier attacker versus legendary raids like Mewtwo, the Lake Trio, Giratina, etc. Overall, this is one of the best raid attackers you can have. If you are lucky enough to get a high IV Shadow Larvitar from Team Go Rocket Battles, you absolutely should dedicate the resources towards getting this beast maxed out and fully evolved. Alright, for the next Pokemon on this list, let's go back to the Go Battle League. Coming in at number 4, it is none other than Shadow Victreebel. Now the inclusion of this Pokemon on this list is for one specific reason: the Great League. This Pokemon can be an absolute staple for some of the cheapest Go Battle League teams out there, such as Grasshole and many of the other anti-charm compositions. The reason why a Shadow Victreebel is so useful is because your opponents typically will not expect it. Plus, the Great League meta typically has a surplus of Swampert, Stunfisk, Politoed, and Azumarill, of which Shadow Victreebel is a hard counter. The one caveat is, of course, its weakness to flying types, which you often see in the Great League with Pokemon like Skarmory and Altaria. However, if you play your team correctly around a Shadow Vic, you can net yourself some really easy and almost effortless wins. Sure, this may be the most controversial Shadow Pokemon on this list, since it is a bit of a niche pick, and the fact that Grasshole teams are often frowned upon by most battlers, but it would be wrong not to have this Pokemon on this list, considering just how impactful it has been in the Go Battle League. Speaking of impactful, let's move on to the 3rd Shadow Pokemon on this list, and it is going to be the Fighting type Pokemon, Shadow Machamp. As there are not a whole lot of options when it comes to top tier fighting type raid attackers, Shadow Machamp is an absolute must. On top of that, Shadow Machamp could be an extremely versatile Pokemon to have for the Go Battle League as well. It could round out some teams that need a heavy hitter, plus most Pokemon in the Ultra and Master League are weak against it. But considering that it is a Shadow Pokemon, it is sure to be a risky choice in most teams. However, having a Shadow Machamp regardless of what you plan to use it for could only make your collection that much better. Coming in at number 2, it is going to be Shadow Weavile. Believe it or not, this is one of the most powerful Shadow Pokemon in the game. Even when it is not a Shadow, Weavile is a very powerful Glass Cannon raid attacker, especially when it comes to Ice types and Dark types. When it is a Shadow Pokemon, it becomes that much more powerful. Very often you will find Shadow Weavile at the top of the list of counters with legendary raids. That is of course because, like I mentioned earlier with Shadow Mammoswine and Shadow Tyranitar, there are plenty of legendary Pokemon that are weak against Ice and Dark. The thing that makes Shadow Weavile awesome is that it has the best of both worlds, while also dealing more base damage on top of it. If you want to be the hardest hitting raider in your community, you will want to be sure to have a bunch of these maxed out and ready to go. Okay, so before we dive into the number 1 Shadow Pokemon, let's go over a few honorable mentions. The Shadow Pokemon that deserve to be mentioned, even though they didn't make this list, is of course all of the Shadow Legendary Pokemon that have been released thus far. These Pokemon are solid raid attackers and great for the Go Battle League. Some notable ones include Ho-Oh, Zapdos, and Articuno. I've seen all 3 of these in the Go Battle League, and I've had great success using these in raid battles. Once you defeat Giovanni, make sure you keep those Shadow Legendary Pokemon and power them up. Now coming in at number 1, it is going to be the one legendary Shadow Pokemon that most players should go for is none other than Shadow Mewtwo. Without question, this is probably the most powerful Shadow Pokemon on this list. However, for one reason or another, you'll find a large number of misinformed players that will choose to purify this Pokemon. This is obviously a huge mistake, since the power you gain from the Shadow Attack bonus on Mewtwo makes it one of the absolute best neutral damage attackers. Plus, it can be a top tier in almost every scenario in Pokemon GO. Whether it be raids, Team Go Rocket battles, gym battles, and the Master League, you are almost always going to find some sort of usefulness with this Shadow Pokemon. Seriously, I cannot tell you how easy the game got once I maxed out my Shadow Mewtwo. Stuff like gym battles and Team Go Rocket battles are pretty much easy mode with a maxed out Shadow Mewtwo that has both charge moves unlocked. Regardless of what IVs you have, you should never purify this Pokemon, and you should dedicate the time and resources necessary to power it up. You will not regret it. Okay, so there you have it. This is my list for the top 10 Shadow Pokemon in Pokemon GO. Let me know your thoughts on this list, especially if I missed a particular Shadow Pokemon that you believe should be on it. With that, I am Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.